Welcome to the Creek Road Baptist Pulpit. These weekly podcasts feature expository messages delivered to edify the soul. Now let's join Pastor Dave as he presents this week's message. You should take your Bible and turn with me to the book of 1 Chronicles today, chapter 13. We finished the knowing and not knowing in the book of John. And I was thinking about what to do next. And the Lord said to me, go back, look at all the sermons that you've preached while you've been at Creek Road Baptist Church. So I did. Look through all my sermons. I found out that after 16 years of preaching from this pulpit, I have not preached from 4 books of the Bible. I don't know why, but for some reason, and you'd think after 16 years, or longer than that now, almost 17 years of ministry in this pulpit, I would have preached through all the books of the Bible, or at least from those books, not maybe through all of them. But there were 4 that I hadn't touched. One was 1 Chronicles, so I'm going to remedy that one today. 1 Chronicles, Job, Song of Songs, and 2 John. So 4 books, 1 in the New Testament, 3 in the Old Testament. And I don't know why I've never been in 1 Chronicles. I love 1 Chronicles. I think maybe it's because 1 Chronicles kind of starts out slow. You really have to work your way through the first 9 chapters because the first 9 chapters of the book of 1 Chronicles is all genealogy. And which is great. I mean, I know those of you that attend Wednesday night service know there's a lot of good stuff in the genealogies. You just have to put your hard hat on, your miner's light, and your boots and your heavy gloves to go digging in the genealogies. But you find diamonds there. And there's lots of diamonds in these 9 chapters. And then we hit chapter 10, and we have the death of Saul. So you start off with the genealogies in the first 9 chapters, and then chapter 10, you have Saul killed. And that's a sad story. And then in chapter 11, Israel gathers themselves to David, who's been anointed king over Judah and Benjamin in Hebron, and they all come to him and say, well, the Lord said you would be our king, so Saul's dead, now be our king. And David takes the throne. They take Jerusalem. He builds Jerusalem and makes it his fortress, becomes then the city of David. And we come to chapter 13, and what I'm going to preach this morning is a message entitled Steps to Disaster. Steps to Disaster. Now tonight I'm going to preach the opposite of this out of chapter 15 called Steps to Recovery. But this morning, Steps to Disaster. 1 Chronicles chapter 13. Beginning in verse 1, and David consulted with the captains of thousands and hundreds, and with every leader. And David said unto all the congregation of Israel, if it seem good unto you, and that it be of the Lord our God, let us send abroad unto our brethren everywhere that are left in all the land of Israel, and with them also to the priests and Levites which are in their cities and suburbs, that they may gather themselves unto us. Let us bring again the ark of our God to us, for we inquired not at it in the days of Saul. And all the congregation said that they would do so, for the thing was right in the eyes of all the people. So David gathered all Israel together from Shihor of Egypt, even unto the entering of Hamath, to bring the ark of God from Kirjath-jearim. And David went up, and all Israel to Bala, which is to Kirjath-jearim, which belongeth to Judah, to bring up thence the ark of God of the Lord, that dwelleth between the cherubims, whose name is called on it. And they carried the ark of God in a new cart, out of the house of Abinadab, and Uzzah and Ahio drave the cart. And David and all Israel played before God with all their might, with singing, with harps, with psalteries, with timbrels, with cymbals, and with trumpets. When they came unto the threshing floor of Sidon, Uzzah put forth his hand to hold the ark, for the oxen stumbled. The anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and he smote him, because he put his hand to the ark. and there he died before God. And David was displeased because the Lord had made a breach upon Uzzah. And therefore that place is called Perez Uzzah unto this day. And David was afraid of God that day, saying, How shall I bring the ark of God home to me? So David brought not the ark home to himself, to the city of David, but carried it aside into the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. The ark of God remained with the family of Obed-Edom in his house 3 months, and the Lord blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that he had. So there is chapter 13 of 1 Chronicles. It's a short chapter with just 14 verses, but you'll notice the story here is very significant. So we're going to talk about steps taken towards disaster. And beginning with verse 1, David had an idea. Notice there in verse 1, he consulted with the captains of thousands and hundreds and with every leader, and David said unto all the congregation of Israel, If it seem good to you, and that it be of the Lord our God, let us send abroad to our brethren everywhere that are left in all the land of Israel, and with them also to the priests and Levites which are in their cities and suburbs, that they may gather themselves unto us. And let us bring again the ark of God to us, for we inquired not at it in the days of Saul. And all the congregation said that they would do so, for the thing was right in the eyes of all the people. Let me ask a question. Who did David not consult? Have you ever used one of these? It says assembly and installation instructions. Have you ever used one of these? Yeah, I do sometimes. Usually, though, if it's something that's kind of in my comfort zone, I never look at it, you know. And this little sheet comes from a light fixture that Denise and I just purchased last week. And we had a broken light fixture in our bathroom, and so we went shopping. Actually, we went shopping on our anniversary. We had a great anniversary. We were shopping for light fixtures. And we bought this little light fixture, and when I asked Denise last night, I said, hey, I need a visual illustration tomorrow. Have we got any, like, assembly instructions anywhere? And she said, well, what about that light fixture you put up this week? And I had forgotten all about it because I never pulled this out of the package. Because I thought enough of myself to think, I can do that. I mean, I've done that before. You know, I've put up light fixtures in the house and, you know, ceiling fans. And, you know, I've done it before. I figured, well, it's, you know, pretty much the same. And I got to looking at this last night, and I didn't do it right. I didn't do it right. But it works, so I'm not taking it down. And don't anybody tell Denise. But the very first thing on here, it says, note, N-O-T-E, great big cap black letters. Note, number 1, before installing, consult local electric codes for wiring and grounding requirements. Nah. Number 2, customer service, 1-800-887-6326. Who's going to call that? Number 3, and this is in huge letters, all capped, great big black bold letters, read and save these instructions. Well, I'm glad I saved them because I got a sermon out of it, but I never read them. And then, of course, you have, you know, then it gives you the exploded view of the piece, and, you know, then it has number 1, remove the spring catches from the sockets. I don't think I did that. And remove the back plate from the mounting plate. Number 2, fix the mounting plate to the wall. I did that. So, and then it has all the way down through number 6. And then on the back it has your 5-year limited warranty. Limited means if you follow these instructions, you're okay. If you don't, then it's, you know, not under warranty. We're like that all the time. Everybody's like that. I mean, and like I said, it just depends on if it falls within your comfort zone, if you look at the instructions or not, right? For example, if somebody said to me, hey, I want you to make this cake, I would say, okay, give me the recipe, and I need detailed instructions because I don't bake cakes. And if I had to bake that cake, I would have to have, and I would read everything on that recipe card. If they said to Val Claypool, hey, we want you to bake this cake, Val would say, okay. She probably wouldn't even look at the recipe card because she has in her mind a cake. Let's just say it's a spice cake. She's probably made a dozen spice cakes in her life, so she knows how a spice cake goes. She knows basic ingredients and basic combinations of things and basic amounts, all of that. So she's already got that in her head. So she might glance at the recipe card once, maybe, if she's making a spice cake. I would be on top of that card feeling for braille marks to make sure I got it right because I don't know how to make a cake. But putting on a light in my bathroom, well, I kind of got that. I've done it before. So I don't really need to read the instructions, I think. But I do, because after reading the instructions, guess what? I left some things out. I wondered why all those extra parts were in that bag. You see? David has that problem here. He does a lot of things that are right in this passage. But the one thing he does that's wrong is he doesn't read the instructions. See, what David wants to do is he wants to bring the ark to Jerusalem. Verse 1 says he consulted with the captains of thousands and hundreds. That's his military leaders. Of course, he would go there first because that's what David is. He's a man of war. And so these men have proven to be wise in the things of war. Maybe they're going to be wise in counsel for the other stuff that he has to do now that he's king. And every leader, it says there at the end of verse 1. And with every leader. So they gather all the captains of the armies. They gather every leader of every tribe in Israel. And it says there in verse 2, they send for the priests and the Levites. So they even get the religious leaders. So they have all the civic leaders, all the military leaders, and all the religious leaders of the land. And he consults with them to bring the ark to Jerusalem. Let us bring the ark of our God to us, for we inquired not at it in the days of Saul. They still haven't asked at it yet, and they want to bring it up to the city of Jerusalem. And all the congregation said that they would do so, for the thing was right in the eyes of all the people. But was it right? See, this is step number 1. When you're making a decision, a big decision, it's wise to ask for counsel from other people. But the first person you need to ask is the Lord. And David completely ignores that step. So he starts down a path that seems like it's wisdom, but it's not. He asks every leader, even the religious leaders in Israel. And everybody said, yep, let's do it. And yet, he hadn't asked the Lord. So David gathered all Israel together from Shihor of Egypt, even to the entering of Hemath, to bring the ark of God from Kiriath Jearim. David went up, and all Israel to Bala, that is, to Kiriath Jearim, which belonged to Judah, to bring up thence the ark of God, the Lord, that dwelleth between the cherubims, whose name is called upon it. Now we know that the ark had been taken during the time of Eli, the high priest, and his sons killed. And the Philistines had it for a while. You remember that story? And God cursed the Philistines because it didn't belong there and they shouldn't have been with it. And what did they do? They put it on a new cart, hooked 2 oxen to it, and told the oxen to get going. And the Lord, with those oxen, just marched the ark right back into Israel. And now David wants to take the ark and he wants to bring it to Jerusalem. Now there's a way to do that. There is a way for that to be done. And notice what happens. Verse 7. And they carried the ark of God in a new cart out of the house of Abinadab. See, it was Abinadab's house where the ark stopped. When they sent it back, it came to Abinadab. And he had it there. And it stayed there. It didn't go back to the tabernacle. It stayed at Abinadab. So David's going to get it. And what does he do? He does it just like the Philistines. Now listen, the Philistines didn't know.